if it seems like nobody values us, nobody wants to be our friend, nobody wants us around, nobody ever calls us, nobody has any interest in us, we might be quite consternated. Another factor here, they talk about business in terms of providing value. If you're creating something, they say provide value, provide great value. Well, maybe if someone, and most everybody never wants to have us around or call us or be around us, we're not providing much value. And maybe we just don't have some things of value to a number of people that quite a few do have. For instance, if one is not quote-unquote good-looking in the conventional sense, then one can't provide that of value. Call it handsomeness. Call it a certain form of sexual power to offer. Or, in tandem with this, if you're not willing to quote-unquote hop in bed or get married, then this is something you can't offer. Another thing in high demand, other than sex, let's say for males, is money for women. And more these days, money for anybody. In fact, if you have a YouTube channel on how to make money, that channel is going to go through the roof in terms of your income from that channel. Anything, in fact, telling people how to make money without landing in prison or having everyone in your neighborhood hate your guts and march in front of your home with protest signs is going to make you a millionaire overnight almost. And if you wanted to be a life coach, many have started by offering dating service advice as a dating coach, particularly toward males who are consternated in many a way, shape, and form if they can't, quote, get dates or go beyond that. So if you can offer sex, you're in. If you can offer a pile of money or a great way to share the bills, you're in. Many marriages, in fact, being described these days as a business relationship, and I humorously stating then that the real relationships are with the pets. That there's a marriage between both spouses to the pet, and the marriage between the spouses is actually just a inked-in business relationship. Ironically, too, I think for many women, a spouse is not just a financial investment, but a security guard in the house. I had a experience once where a man with a PhD told me that his wife just liked having him around at night for safety. Another part of this quote-unquote relationship is simply mutual distraction. All the more so if you have children or have a home you own, by which then you're constantly going to a home improvement store every Saturday or Sunday for upgrades on the home, both for your own desires maybe, for whatever reasons, functionality, distractions, and to keep up with the Joneses too. Lest you fall behind, become a scapegoat too. Now, if you don't have any of these things really to offer or don't want to offer them, what are your other options? Perhaps the only other real option that strikes me is subsumed under the phrase, do you want to marry for love or money? Or let's just say, do you want to have relationships or interactions with people for the uplifting benefit or for the various other things I've just mentioned? Let's call it just the business side of things. Another facet here that strikes me as per why some people get together, spend time with each other, and they might not like each other one bit, is either to trade information that will help them in their business, or in terms of getting money or solving problems, even like, oh, I'm out of sugar, do you have more sugar? Is to have allies in general for protective purposes. Hence, many grouping together, canned in like sardines in communities, in villages, in towns, for the protective value. You might call it strength in numbers. And yet another facet I see commonplace in so-called friendships or associations, time spent with people together, is a mutual collaboration to reinforce denials. Yet another factor is to mutually pull someone down for the pleasure of it. Let's just call it mutual put-downing, whereupon each corroborates the other's version, in other words, validates their desire and implementation of putting someone down. They not only do it more effectively, derive more pleasure doing it in group fashion, but get validation as per the rationalizations, if you will, behind it all. This put-downing can be either intellectual based as per verbally enacted, or non-verbally enacted, or even in terms of group aggression, physically speaking. Or it could just mean denial of information, or denial of support, or denial of a lending hand if you see even a neighbor or loved one in need. Getting the pleasure of just standing by and doing nothing, turning a blind eye, or whatnot. Too, isn't this then perhaps why so many people enjoy having pets? In part because they want a relationship with somebody, but if the spouse or the friendships aren't providing much, and maybe we don't like an aspect of the other person in terms of their level of self-elevation, if you will, grandiosity, whatnot, elements of putting down, maybe we're getting some other things and thus enacting a toleration policy and deriving benefits thereby also, and then turning to the pets for the real relationship. Hence a compromised situation, and what I see all too often then is really if a family is together or an arrangement like this is together, it's really like not in one home, but the home is like a split level home. Each has their own corner, and they come out to coordinate and then go back to their own corners. For instance, I once knew a man who had a PhD in sociology, and his wife had a master's degree in nursing. Both taught at a college, and they would email each other when it was time from their respective rooms in their home to get together for dinner, have dinner, and then go back in their corners, so to speak. I also had relatives once who ironically lived in separate apartments but would go back and forth on the landing, or call it porch, between the two apartments. I know of other instances, like another set of relatives I have, the husband on the lower level, the wife on the top level. You might just say then that there are possibly a number of families who live in different homes adjacently and then get together just to coordinate or keep up appearances to themselves and others that they are supposedly the conventional, wonderful family, accompanied by the Christmas photos on greeting cards, too. I thus ubiquitously find more and more a whole host of bumper stickers and window decals stating words to the effect of, "A home without a dog is not a home," or "My children have 4 paws." or a t-shirt sporting words to the effect of, "I love horses, dogs, and perhaps 3 people." And others adamantly saying perhaps that they are lesbians until such time that they meet a very unusual man, and all of a sudden then they are no longer a lesbian. I might just humorously or not so humorously state that maybe we need to find marriage certificates changing such that it's no longer between 2 people who get married, but 3 people. The pet is the 3rd spouse and typically occupies the middle of the bed. So to recap, the next time we wonder, how come so many people seem to have friends? We might just ask, well, what is a friend? And even if so many people are married and we are not, and we're wondering, well, how come no one even wants to date us? We might just ask, well, what is even dating? What is a relationship? I think the phrase used to go, who is a true friend and who is a fair weather friend? And do we actually even have anyone in our lives who has ever been a true friend? Maybe a true friend is someone who has anything to offer that is uplifting and consistent, loyal, so to speak, rather than a, quote, business relationship or functionality. Maybe we need to ask, too, who are people's best friends or real friends at all? Maybe our best friends tend to be animals. And maybe our best friends are our computer. At times, anyway. Maybe our best friends are our cell phones. Maybe we've just plain old written off the human race if we think, and it may just be true, that almost nobody can understand us, thus uplift us. They can only give us things or do things for us, provide us information, be a security guard, so to speak, take us to the hospital if we break a leg, feed us chicken soup when we're sick, pool resources for better housing, keep us from being stigmatized in terms of being a scapegoat, and so on and so forth. Perhaps these all subsumed under what was once called, or still called, a business relationship. Maybe it's just thus a trade, so to speak, that is etched in stone. Where are the days then of uplifting? Where are the days of understanding, moreover, as perhaps the prime form of uplifting? Maybe we even need thus to redefine what the word love is. There is, for instance, perhaps 5 years ago, a YouTube video that came out, not very well subscribed to, perhaps 20,000 views at present. I think the man's name was Jim Anderson, and the name of the video was something like, Acceptance is the First Step to Love. Well, maybe what it is, in my mind, we could also say, maybe acceptance is true love, and what we call love is simply doing things for people. And if we wanted to upgrade even more, perhaps we upgrade the word acceptance to understanding. We, quote, accept what we understand, and we get in a huff over those things we misinterpret as to what we think they can deliver, people included. And isn't it true, perhaps, if we think about it, it's people we can't really understand. We think, for instance, that we would be cuckoo if we thought a plane could take us to Mars for a vacation and bring us back in one day. But when it comes to people, how easy it is to misinterpret people, even ourselves, of course, and then expect the impossible and get quite in a huff when the product, so to speak, whatever it is, including emotions, can't be delivered. I don't think this happens too much with objects, data, only people. We have to wonder then, well, what is it about people that makes it so easy to misinterpret who and what people are, including ourselves? And why then we get such in a huff, so angry, and expect way too much when it comes to people but not objects. I just closed humorously, perhaps, with the phrase, if you have no gas in your gas tank of a car, well, then you're not going to get very upset for very long if you can't take a vacation trip halfway across the country. And yet, how interesting that this does not seem to apply very well when it comes to our relationships or interactions with people, ourselves included. Hence the phrase, don't beat yourself up so much about such and such. Or don't take things so seriously. Or you expect too much of me, or you expect too much of others. Or you demand the impossible, or you're a perfectionist. When was the last time we expected perfection of a car, again, in terms of getting us all across the country to our favorite vacation spot on 1 gallon of gas? Wouldn't that be perfectionism? I don't think anyone expects that of a car or its gas tank, and yet how ironic when it comes to people what we expect. The person who can wrap this all up in one sentence, some saying, oh, I want the God equation, one sentence that equates all the reality of life when it comes to people, oh my goodness. They will be called Einstein times 100, won't they? Thoughts here.